What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review, and this is our weekly show where we review the Magic stories. And so, as we've been doing for the past few weeks, we are back with the continuation of our Battle for Zendikar / Oath of the Gatewatch stories, inspired by our most recent trip to Zendikar in Zendikar Rising. And so this week we have story number 8, Slaughter at the Refuge by James Wyatt. My quick review at the top of this one is, I didn't hate this one. There's some fair amounts of description of the Eldrazi, of some fighting of the Eldrazi. There's some heroic aspects for Gideon, and there's like an introduction of one of my personal favorite characters. There's not much that she does here, but it's the first time we're seeing her, so, you know, she's kind of unassuming at first and will increase from there. So for those reasons, I didn't hate it. If you have the time, I guess in that regard, I'd recommend it. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I recommend you read it if you're going to watch this video. I don't know, I didn't feel like there was a ton of important stuff in there, and I felt like it was kind of tropey.
Okay, and I did mention heroic stuff, so yeah, I got you. I can see that, definitely. All right.
A little too played out.
Okay. So as Amy said, if you are interested in reading this story before watching this video, we will be going through some short summarization just to talk about some points, but we will not be going in depth into the summary of the story. And so if you want to understand it as it was intended to be understood, we encourage you to go read the story. The best way to do that, since this is an older one, feel free to check the description down below, and we will have a link to this story for you to go and read it for yourself. Quick and easy, and then of course we would love it if you would come back here and join us for the continuation. But onto the full review itself. As I hinted at, this is very much a Gideon story. Technically Jace is here as well, because this is...
Technically Jace is always there, isn't he?
I have something interesting to talk about with Jace in a bit, but yes, that's fair. But yeah, this was Gideon and Jace returning to Zendikar, or Gideon returning with Jace to Zendikar to try to help with the fight, and finding that a lot has happened while they were gone, while Jace was dirtling around with presumably paperwork or whatever at the...
and Liliana.
At the Guildmaster's Hall. Sure, yeah. And Gideon needed to be healed. As he points out in this story, if he was not sent to a healer at Jace's, insisting, he probably wouldn't have been able to do much here regardless. Yeah. Although it was interesting, you pointed out, one of the first things that Gideon says is he kind of feels to himself, looking around at all the carnage, he looks at the camp and he says to himself, you know, if I was here, this camp wouldn't have fallen.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah. Okay.
And again, presumably...
It's one of those classic, I'm the chosen one. I'm the only one who can save the world. It's like, bleh.
I'm sure, again, as he mentions later, I'm sure he means when he's at 100%, if he was there, the camp wouldn't have fallen. And I don't know, I mean,
his invulnerability, right?
Sure.
That makes a huge difference, but still.
Well, and it depends. Did the camp get surrounded? Was it an ambush overnight? You know what I mean? There's so many different factors to that, and you could say that Gideon was, and is, we saw it in this one, Gideon is a motivating factor for the other soldiers as well, right? And so when he's there, their morale is up, and that does a fair amount for their willingness to fight, their ability to fight back, and their ability to believe that they can succeed, which is not all of it, but is a fair margin of it. But I'm still not sure. Just based on the volume of Eldrazi, Gideon does make it sound like there's a moment where he's fighting them off, where he stays behind to hold them off and lets everybody else run away, where as he's fighting, he notices that their numbers are beginning to thin, or that their advance is beginning to slow down. And I'm unsure, because Gideon's unsure, if that truly is because he has put enough of a dent in them that they've stopped coming, or if it's because they've, like, kind of found another way around,
Yeah, like,
or...
detour here.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with their ability to climb or whatever, like, they don't need to go straight through, and they're not necessarily going to have as tough of a time climbing as humans and core and injured people are.
Right.
Although, notably, going through the ravine, Gideon using his Searle knocking the boulders down, or the rocks down, or whatever, did buy them, I was surprised, but according to the story, bought them a couple of hours.
Wow.
Because when they then got to the hedrons, the amount of time that it took them to string up the lines and get the injured across up onto the hedrons and stuff, it said it took them a couple of hours. And it did not mention in that time fighting off the Eldrazi that were coming up behind them.
Yeah.
So he bought them a couple of hours at minimum, which is really impressive, and I mean, I would argue illogical, but
yeah.
just based on what we've known, but maybe not. I don't know. Because still by the end of this video, or this story, we still don't see more, right? We see, like, Gideon sees some of them going through Seagate, right? And he knows he has to go there next, but otherwise we don't see them at all. So, like, he bought them multiple hours of time, or because he, like maybe by knocking all the boulders over and stuff, he just masked their trail enough where, like, the Eldrazi stopped pursuing them and they just decided to go elsewhere. One of the things that I found interesting about this story is when Gideon, something that Gideon finds interesting as well, which is that the Eldrazi seem to be able to feed on anything. The rock face, the ground, like, it's, to us, right, you would think that something that's feeding would need to feed on organic-based matter, because that's what
or
we
that,
understand.
Like, was once alive.
Sure.
You know, whereas, like, rocks, you know, don't, you know, you can suck on rocks, but you really can't eat them.
Right. And, like, I don't know, I mean, like, moss or whatever, like, I can't think of anything that can sustain itself or even have any sustenance for itself based off of rock matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, water breaks down rock, but that's not to build itself up, right? That's just, it just happens to work that way. I don't know of anything that, like, there are, like I was saying, like lichen and moss and stuff that grow on rock, but I don't know that they don't feed off of the rock to grow.
No, it's just a surface for them to grow.
Right, exactly. So that's why it is so alien to us that Eldrazi would be able to feed off of rock, because nothing in our world or our known, you know, our knowledge of anything can feed on rocks. So that makes sense to me that it would be surprising to Gideon, and is fascinating to me that it can work that way. So I appreciated that. One thing I wanted to talk about, which I thought you might enjoy. Let's talk about the Jace being a dick counter that I started writing. I was surprised, because, like, I am not one of those people that rags on Jace for being a jerk. Some people are.
Yeah.
Some people are not. I'm really not. And I'm not a Jace apologist either, where I'm like, oh, you're being too hard on him. I just don't really see it. But here I saw it big time. When they first got there, they're, like, looking around, they being Jace and Gideon. Excuse me. They're looking around at the carnage around them. Dead bodies everywhere. Fire that has spread from fire pits to surrounding shelter and burned it up or burned it to the ground, and there's still some glowing embers around. Like, it is destruction.
Right.
And James Wyatt does a great job of describing that. Worked really, really nicely. And it's devastating. And Gideon, of course, feels super guilty. It brings him right back to his irregulars, and he feels like because he left, he abandoned them. If he had been there, he could have saved them. It's this whole thing. If
they had taken some X-Lax, that would have saved them.
It's his whole thing, right?
They're irregular. Get it?
I didn't get it, and now I get it. And I more appreciate it now. Thank you for explaining it. Jokes are funnier when you explain them, but this one actually worked. So thank you. That's hilarious. But it brings Gideon. It brings Gideon right back to his irregulars, which is kind of his whole thing, right? And that's why Cathartic Reunion. No, what the hell's the name of the card? Damn it! I'm not going to remember the name of the card.
That?
I don't know. I don't think so. Cathartic Reunion is Chandra and her mom.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I don't know.
No, it's that. It's that dude with his like.
Well, that's the reprint of it.
Thing.
Yes, that's the reprint of it. Is the guy and his dinosaur from Zendikar? No, from Ikoria.
Yeah.
But no, the original Cathartic Reunion, to my knowledge, is Chandra and Pia seeing each other and hugging. But regardless, it's whatever the Gideon card is, where after he dies, he's in the afterlife with his irregulars, seeing them again. Which is why they use that to close out his arc, because it's very much a part of his arc. He very often feels like, because he leaves, people die, and if he's around, he's the only one that will survive. It's his burden and his curse.
Or he's the one that will make them survive.
Right. Anyway, so Jace is standing among this carnage. Gideon is starting to feel super guilty about having left to go get Jace. And Jace turns around looking at all of this and then asks Gideon, he's like, so, is Jorian around, or... And Gideon's like, dude, what are you talking about? Look at what's happening here. Now, to be fair, the story references the fact that Gideon notices that it seems that Jace is asking that to try to mask his own worry or concern with this situation. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in that regard. But, but I'll also say it's still not cool. Like, read the room, Gideon's not okay, and you're just like, so, where's that friend of yours you promised me? Like, where is she?
I mean, Gideon was also dumb enough to, like, trust Liliana and give up his life for her, so, he's obviously not a good judge of character.
That's much later on, but yes. Then, continuing on the Jace being a dick counter, that's the first. Second one is when Jace and Gideon are hearing about Commander Vorik and his group leaving the camp and going up into the ravine to try to get away from the Eldrazi. And Gideon asks, like, where is Commander Vorik? Where did he take his soldiers? And the soldiers that were somewhat more able-bodied and stayed behind to fend off the Eldrazi at the choke point, after putting up a little makeshift barricade, say, oh, they climbed up the ravine. And it's like, they continued to keep running, because Gideon's like, okay, what's the counterattack plan? These things aren't going to stop, so obviously Commander Vorik has a plan to stop them, right? To turn around and come back and fight. And the soldiers are like, no, he's just focused on getting our injured away, because we have a lot of injured, and so they need to get the hell out of here. And Jace responds by, like, rudely, like, making comments and being like, what kind of a leader would do such a thing?
Yeah.
And Gideon's like, no, that makes sense. Like, he has injured soldiers. He needs to get them to safety. Like, if they're all dead, then what's the point? Like, keep some of them alive somehow. And then finally, Gideon again, right? Gideon left Zendikar to get Jace, to bring Jace back to see Jorian, so that they can work together to figure out the mystery of the ley lines, the mystery of the hedrons, whatever you want to call it, to try to stop what's happening on this plane. And now Jace has been here, he's seen what's happened on this plane, the destruction, etc. And I'm assuming he sees, we only hear from Gideon's perspective, so we don't know what Jace knows or feels. And sometimes he may just be selfish enough that he's not paying attention to Gideon's feelings, like what he can get insightfully from him. But Gideon feels terrible about having left and about having wasted so much time on Ravnica with Jace, but also understands that he needed that time with the healer. And that if we said before, if he hadn't, he would likely not have been much help here.
Right.
So he knows he needed it. He just feels guilty that he needed it. Maybe he feels weak as well. He didn't say that, but, you know, the fact that he needed to actually stop, the invulnerable man needed to stop and not be able to be there to fight, that could have made him feel bad. And so Gideon finally is like, okay, you people go, leave. I'll hold them off. I'm going to stay behind. Which is what he wanted to have been doing all along, is staying and fighting the Eldrazi solo so that everybody else could be safe and get away. And he says, you know, take Jace with you. Jace, when you get there, find Jorian. Right? Again, like Amy said, somewhat of a tropey moment, like I'll hold them off.
Right.
And a very heroic moment. Right. But a very but a very heroic moment of, I will stay here. You're more important here, Jace.
Right.
You go. And Jace turns around, you know, Gideon says, go find Jorian. And Jace turns around after all of that and goes, if she's still alive. Dude!
Fucking stop.
What the hell? Yes, we get it, Jace. She definitely could be dead. What purpose does you saying that phrase do here? We get it. Gideon, thankfully, is not an idiot and absolutely knows that she could be dead. He knows that she could be dead. Just go. Just leave and try to find her. And look, if you find out that she's dead, find a way to tell Gideon in a more somber moment. But don't just be like, Gideon's like, I'm going to stay behind and save you all. You, Jace, crucial part of this puzzle,
right.
Go. Go find Jorian. And Jason's like, well, if she's alive. Like, what?
Well, she's probably dead, so,
yes.
you know.
Yeah. What a
I'm just going to play a game on my phone.
what a great motivator for Gideon to want to stay alive now. Like, what are you doing? I was so angry. I'm like, dude, you're such an asshole. Oh, my God.
Yep.
He just had to be that guy over and over again.
Shit.
Yeah.
Just a shit.
Again, I'm not typically the, you know, pile on how much of an asshole Jace is, but this time it was very hard not to talk about it. So
yeah.
There you go. That was ridiculous. Like, what the hell? Sure enough, because we're talking about Jorian, Gideon finds out, or Jace finds out and then tells Gideon in arguably a fine manner, because Gideon, like, asks, right? Gideon says to Jace, did you find Jorian? Is she here? And Jace kind of respectfully is like, they weren't really able to find her. She, you know, there's one guy that thinks that she might still be at Seagate, but, you know, there's not, nobody, like, saw her, you know, get killed or anything. But, and so Gideon still has hope, but it's what leads him to the end of this story, continuing with the tropes of, I have to go back for her. But it's suicide. Doesn't matter, I have to. And again, feeling guilty for what he did in going to get Jace, he kind of says, like, what was all of this for?
Right.
If she's dead.
Right.
If I don't go back for her.
Right. If she's dead, then there's no reason for Jace to be here. Because he might not be able to solve the puzzle without her. And if there's no reason for Jace to be here, then there's no reason for me to have left in the first place and let all these people die.
Correct. And get them into the situation that they're in right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there going like, everything is useless and pointless and we're all gonna die. And Jace is sitting there going, yeah, we probably are dead. No!
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
Solid morale boost.
Pretend at least. Even if you don't think that there's any chance that this woman's alive. Like, pretend.
Yeah. It costs you nothing.
My God.
Yeah. You could do, like, because Gideon even says to Jace at one point towards the end, he's like, do what you can. See what you can figure out without her, and I'm going to go get her. Because you probably won't be able to do much without the notes that she has. So I'm going to go get her, but you do what you can. There's hedrons all over the place here. And it's the mystery of the hedrons, the mystery of the ley lines, so see what you can figure out. Jace likes puzzles. It actually makes perfect sense to me in that regard. That he would at least tell him to try without before instead of just waiting for Gideon to get back, possibly with bad news. And then, as I mentioned, Tazri is here. I love General Tazri. Now that she is General Tazri, before that she was Commander Tazri. Here, she's Tazri. Because she's not Commander. Commander Vorik is still alive. Spoilers, I guess. But yeah, General Tazri is just Tazri. And like I said, she doesn't do much here. We kind of just meet her a bit. We get like a tiny bit of her personality. Gideon is talking to Jace, and Tazri is standing there, and she kind of goes, I'm Tazri. And Gideon's like, oh, right, hi, nice to meet you. And it's like, yes, go, that's awesome.
Well, like in any other situation, that would be really stupid, because it's like, okay, yeah, they're just like ignoring this woman being here.
Right.
But in this situation, there's a lot going on.
Yes.
So, like, I can understand why, introductions aren't, the most important thing on their own.
Sure. And what I appreciate, though, is you still get, like, we know, because we've read these stories, if you have not, Tazri doesn't love Gideon. Just doesn't love him. She's not a fan. And this story kind of starts you on that path. Because, sure, maybe that particular thing isn't a good enough reason, and she's just kind of being unreasonable in terms of why she's upset that he didn't introduce himself to her while he's trying to figure out what strategies to implement to save all these soldiers or help them as much as he can. But when Gideon is the one that mentions, oh, let's get everybody up onto the hedrons, use some ropes and some hooks, and let's climb onto these hedrons, and Tazri's going, are you crazy? We've got people that can't walk, we've got people on stretchers, like makeshift stretchers, like, how the hell are we supposed to traverse up onto those things? And Gideon's like, well, we can definitely do it. And Tazri finally looks at Commander Vorik, and she's like, sir, come on. And Vorik looks at Tazri and says, no, it makes sense. And so Tazri is going to be upset now because Vorik is paying more attention to Gideon, this new guy who, granted, they all love him. They have big hard-ons for Gideon because he's great at everything that he does ever, and he's a super big morale booster for all the soldiers. But she's upset because she's like, this makes no sense. I know this makes no sense,
right,
but you're not listening to me when I tell you it makes no sense. So okay, whatever. Listen to Gideon, I guess. So yeah, I personally thought that was pretty funny, but also,
I don't think that's funny at all.
But it makes sense for her arc going forward that this plants the seed for why she may not be as big of a Gideon fan.
Because he comes up with stupid ideas, and then everyone's like, he's great! And then she has to sit there going,
yeah.
But really, though...
Yep.
Yeah, I've been there. Many times.
Yeah.
Going, okay, there's an easy solution to this problem. And I present the solution, and it doesn't matter.
I believe you've told me about those situations in the past as well. Yeah. Yep. No, that's definitely a thing.
We'd rather waste an hour on the phone with someone who has no clue what's going on, and they'll give us a much worse fix.
Yep.
And then we have to implement it.
Yeah.
So that's going to take the rest of the day. But your simple solution, no, we're not doing that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been in similar situations as well. I won't get into it personally, but yes, that is definitely #relatable.
Yeah.
But if you have stories that are similar, you're more than welcome to vent in the comments.
Yes.
We would love to hear it. I encourage everyone, if you did not watch our video last week for JaAR, I encourage you to check it out, the Thanksgiving episode, so you may have missed it. I encourage you to check that out for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it was a great story, and we loved it, and we got to gush about it for a little while. But secondly, the beginning of the video with us being able to join in with the 2020 Fall Pride Shirt fundraiser campaign, super great. Like I said, I highly encourage you to check out that video. It has links where you can buy those shirts and stuff. I won't say more about it because that video has it all for you. So
yes.
I encourage you to check out last week. It was definitely a good time.
Please do.
if you're unaware of us and the things that we do here, we stream every Monday and Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. I will say, the day that this video comes out, tomorrow, we are continuing to play more Dragon Ball Z Budokai, and that's the series Budokai. We beat Budokai 1 the first night that we streamed that series, and we moved on to 2 last week. So watch us continue playing through as many of these games as we can get through.
Yes.
But more importantly, well, not more importantly, also, next Friday, we will take a break from that series, briefly, because there's another game that I'm super interested in playing. I talked about this last week as well. I am chomping at the bit, and Amy is holding me back as best she can from the computer, from Steam, because I want to play this game so badly, and I'm just not allowed, and Amy's mean to me about it. I'm kidding. She's doing a great job.
Mean.
She's doing a great job. I asked her to do it. She's doing a great job keeping me from playing the game. But we're both excited to play this one. And so we hope you'll join us this Friday, next Friday, every Friday. But because you're here for Magic Stories, if you're interested in Magic, those are our Monday streams, MTG Arena, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. So we hope you're here for that as well. Please feel free to check out our other channels, our other series. Those Dragon Ball Z Budokai VODs are not on this channel. They are over on Video Games for All, which is one of our other family of channels here. So you can check out the links for all of our other channels down in the description.
Please do.
Subscribing and ringing the bell to any of our channels at all gives you full notice when we go live and when we put up a new video. So definitely do that. It helps us out a lot, but it'll also help you if you are looking for more of our content. But with regard to this story, that is going to be the end unless you had more to say. I didn't.
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, especially since I went into that whole,
It was kind of a one-dimensional sort of story.
Yes. It was, I mean, this is to kind of ramp you up and let you know what we're in for this one.
I was definitely right, I think, before when I said that the awesome story team wrote these stories, but they weren't quite to their fullest potential yet. Like, they weren't allowed at that point yet to, like, really lean into, like, their own specific niches.
Okay.
Like they got to
Sure.
at some point, and they just weren't there yet for these.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
that's why James Wyatt was writing about, you know, the hero complex, like, instead of, you know, the stuff that he's really good at writing.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So definitely tune in next week to see the continuation of this. We hope that you will be able to join us for that as well. Stay tuned, like I said, to all of our channels for a bunch of new stuff because we're not stopping. It is a minimum of 6 videos a week and 2 streams a week.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
Yeah. So, you know.
We're using our COVID-19 time to its fullest.
That's right. That is absolutely right. So we hope that you are all continuing, speaking of that, to stay safe and happy and healthy. We hope that you are continuing to
take care of yourselves.
Yes, and each other, and your you know, in talking with your loved ones, etc. We hope that everybody is doing those things and making smart choices while doing so.
Yes, and
because
hopefully everyone's holidays are
appropriately planned.
Yes, as well as being enjoyable.
Correct. And again,
you might have to get creative to figure out how that's going to work.
Yeah.
But do that. It'll be worth it.
Right. Our one Friday stream that is going to be on Christmas Day will likely not happen. But you can stay tuned to those streams, those live streams, to ask us about that.
We will get back to
going up to it. But otherwise, none of our other content is going to be impacted by the holidays. So definitely stay tuned for all of our videos being uploaded, etc. All of that will still be here, so
yes.
No worries on that. Again, having free time and filming ahead of time is a wonderful thing. So.
Yes.
Thank you all so very much for joining us for this particular episode of JaAR, joining us as we get back into these older stories and talking about these characters and talking about the writing team and their ability to get into these characters and their heads in the best possible space to do so is a great way for you all to join us in showing off our...
#Vorthos Pride.
That's right. So
it feels so good to say that. It's been such a while,
yes,
I feel like.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So we will be back next week with the continuation of this series. We really hope you're enjoying it because we definitely are in doing these flashback stories.
Yeah.
Thank you all so very much for joining us, as we always say to you. And for now, from us here at the Geek for All family of channels, I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.